When you play Brimstone, you have the opportunity to be the best character in the server. With Brimstone, you aren't bogged down by the needs of others like with Sage, yet unlike with Jett, you still have the utility to drastically help your team when they need it most. That is something that is great about Brim. You can provide an insane amount of support for both yourself and your team, while still having enough freedom to play how you want to play. Brim may not be the best character, but it gives you an insanely high opportunity for success. Now, while I may not be a pro, Brimstone is the perfect character for me. And with this guide, I'll show you some of the things that worked for me, and hopefully you can become more successful with one of the best characters Valorant has to offer. The first piece of Brim's utility comes in the form of the combat stim. The combat stim is a throwable item that gives the players that stand in its AoE a 10% increase in rate of fire, reload speed, aim recovery, and equip speed. Basically, when you stand in it, your guns become easier to use and have a faster time to kill. The stim beacon itself lasts for 12 seconds, however it also comes with an extra 4 seconds of added bonus. This is a buff that allows you to continuously use its effects even once you've left its area. Some minor tricks with this are its visual cues to see how long it has left. The top piece of the stim will begin to shrink as time goes on, indicating that it is about to run out, meaning that you as an enemy player can tell when it will run out. Much like the rest of Brim's utility, at first glance it looks very basic and somewhat surface level. However, the stim beacon does have other uses than to just kill players. It can very quickly dispose of sage walls as well as anything else that needs to be taken down quickly. It can also be used to both offensively and defensively. Defensively to hold angles where you know multiple people are coming from and that high rate of fire is useful. Or offensively, by throwing it in an area where a gun duel will surely take place. This can thus support your team by giving them a slight chance in their aim duels. Some of the more niche uses come into play when they stop thinking of the stim beacon as a simple buff. The General Sun Tzu once said, "All warfare is based on deception." This holds true with the stim beacon. It can be used as bait to your enemies into thinking you are somewhere where you're not. If the whole point of the stim beacon is to try and help you win gunfights, the enemy team will think that you are using it, when in reality you are somewhere else, ready to spring the trap. Some more basic tricks can be to buy it somewhat sparingly when money is tight. In a way, while versatile, the stim beacon is the least used utility in Brim's arsenal. In a lot of ways, it is the piece of utility that you'll need to buy one of, especially when you don't have the funds for other things. If it's the stim beacon or another piece of utility, it's probably better to go with something else. Overall, the stim beacon is not just any regular buff. It creates opportunities to help your team in fights, move quickly on offense, slow the enemy down on defense, and provide a way to trick your enemy on your position. It is one of the most deceptively simple pieces of utility in the entire game. Next up in Brim's utility is his molly. The molly is the most expensive piece of equipment in Brim's arsenal, costing at $300. You only get one per round, so be sure to use it wisely. The molly lasts for 8 seconds total and causes 60 damage per second, meaning that it only takes 2.5 seconds for it to kill a fully armored enemy. Brim's molly is one of the most valuable pieces of his utility, and for good reason. It is easily the best molly in the game, not only due to its damage and duration, but also due to its physics and the way it behaves with the environment. Unlike Phoenix's molly, Brim's does not have a max duration, meaning that some of the most insane molly lineups are possible, such as the one you are seeing right now. The molly will continue to fly through the air, only ever stopping when something has been hit. Despite the molly being able to be used both offensively and defensively, I find that it is best for zoning the enemy and slowing them down. You may not get a lot of kills with the molly, however, you can force the enemy into bad positions. This is how it will be used defensively. You can force rotates by putting the molly in a choke point, where a large number of enemy players are, or just simply slow the enemy down to give your team time to rotate. From an offensive standpoint, the molly is quite basic. It can be used to clear corners and in turn force them out of said corners. While this does provide for a large amount of unique situations, the molly on offense is overall a straightforward piece of equipment. Once again, this is an incredibly valuable piece of your arsenal, meaning some tactics should be used to try and save it for the best possible moment. For example, a lot of Brims make the mistake of using a molly immediately on defense to slow the enemy down, when in reality, a similar effect can be achieved with just using a smoke. Basically, try to save your molly for moments where a simple smoke will not slow them down. Essentially, think of your molly as the ultimate slowdown tool on defense, and you'll give your team a huge advantage. The next piece of utility is Brim's signature ability, the smoke. Brim's smoke lasts for just under 15 seconds and is placed by bringing up a map which you choose its location. Each one costs only $100. Due to it being its signature ability, you will always get one for free at the start of each round. Be sure to keep that in mind when you're buying up. Brim Smoke is by far the easiest to use in the entire game. All you need to do is somewhat know the map and you'll be able to hit pinpoint accurate smokes every time. There really isn't much you need to know mechanically about smokes. Just know that these are not the type of things you need to save for the perfect moment. They are incredibly cheap and you will always get one for free, so don't be afraid to use them. We will go more in depth with some of the tactics for Brim later, but here are some minor tricks that can be used with his smokes. Due to them being perfectly accurate, Brim smokes can be used for some one-ways, such as this one on Bind. Also, the exact center of the smoke will always be shown by the point of your cursor. And finally, unlike Omen smokes, when you step into it, it somewhat blinds your view. The final piece of Brim's utility is his ultimate, the Orbital Strike. This is one of the most powerful ults in the game, effectively shutting down an entire area of the map, and if you're caught out in it, it can deal insane amounts of DPS. The Orbital Strike takes 2 seconds to fire, it lasts for only 4 seconds, but deals an insane 140 DPS, meaning it only takes 1.3 seconds for a fully kitted enemy to die to it. You can think of the Orbital Strike as the ultimate smoke and molly combination. Brim's ult creates a 4-second barrier between you and your enemy. Not only can it devastate pushes, but offensively it can create space like no other ability can. Once again, we will discuss tactics with the ult a little bit later, but try and remember that your ult can act as anything from a free kill to the best zoning tool in the game. Try and use it wisely as you can, but don't be afraid to use it and try to get that opening pick. That is probably the biggest tip anyone can receive with regarding Brim's ult. Use it. A lot of players can get bogged down in how powerful it is, and thus save it for a moment that never really comes. It is better to zone your enemy out of a bomb site 3.5 times than never use it at all. As I said before, I think the reason Brimstone is so good is because his kit allows for insane versatility. While Sage as a whole may be the better character, I think someone can be more successful with Brim individually because you are not putting the needs of others over your own. You also may not have the complete freedom that Jet offers, but this trade-off allows you to have better utility to help your team. This is what we need to keep in mind when discussing tactics with Brim. You need to understand that while you do have a level of freedom, you are still a support character. You need to always be ready to help your team while also striving to be a good solo player. The way I see it is sort of like a balancing act. When you play Sage, you tip the scale towards helping your team just a little, while when you play someone like Phoenix, you tip the scale just a little the other way, for being a more solo style player. To me, the best Brims are always in the middle of this scale, simultaneously placing smokes, throwing beacons, and getting the kills that are needed. With all this in mind, a tactic for Brim is to try to be that general of the army. On offense, you will need to be the one that crafts the push. Most of the time, your smokes will decide how your team enters the site, so coordination is key. You are the one that decides how your team plays. Take this example on Split. There are a lot of ways you can push onto the A site. Do you smoke Heaven and CT and split into 2 site players and a Heaven player? Or do you completely cover their area of the map and simply try to take control of the site? Or do you not go on site at all and choose to go through Heaven to try to catch the enemy off guard? Your smokes decide that approach. Defensive Brim tactics, in my opinion, are where some open-endedness comes into play. It's very difficult to make one large statement that describes Brim on defense. A lot of it comes from adapting to how your team plays and how the enemy plays. For example, if the enemy plays a little slower, perhaps it's better to save the smokes for the retakes. If they play a little faster, then maybe use your utility early to slow them down. It's all about adaptation. In the end, Brim is someone that is good in almost all situations. He's good on defense, he's good on offense, he is good solo, he is good with your team. Brim is what you make of it. He is an open-ended character that at first seems one-dimensional, but when you peel back the layers, you find one of the most versatile characters in all of Valorant. So if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, it really does help me, and I always appreciate it, especially when I make these types of videos. This specific type of video I've never really made, so if you guys could tell me what you thought in the comments, I would also really appreciate it. And I probably got some info wrong somewhere, that's kind of inevitable, but in the future these videos will become a lot cleaner, and in a sense a lot more clear. Thanks again, and if you want to watch more of my content, please consider subbing, and that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.